You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is March the 23rd, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Carl, I'm going to start the show with a bit, I don't know if it's an inflammatory statement, but I would like to say that there is only one listener that I like.
Wow. Well, you know
There's
what,
only
Nick?
one.
In these times when things are changing, we don't have hockey to talk about. It's nice that you have made everyone else turn off the show. Tell me, Nick, tell me, who is the one person who still listens to this show, apparently?
His name is Adam, and he's the only listener I like because he is the only one who agreed with me that a sheet is indeed a blanket.
Is that the same one who commented asking about what a fitted sheet was?
Yeah, let's not get into that.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much mileage we got out of that topic this week.
You know, and people still wanted more today. They wanted to know like what our take on duvets was. Do you have one?
It falls under the blanket category along with sheets and comforters.
Okay, it's definitely a blanket because it falls under my category of 2 layers of fabric with something in the middle of it. So, therefore, a blanket. Fitted sheet, not a blanket. Duvet is a blanket.
Correct.
But here's what's interesting. Thinking about it more, according to my definition, a pillow is a blanket.
That makes no sense. A pillow
And I don't
is a
know.
pillow.
Now I don't know what to do. I've had many sleepless nights this week. Some of them because of pillows.
Yeah. Well, you're just resting your head on that blanket of yours.
You know what?
Just couldn't get to sleep.
Just cover myself in blanket, and all of a sudden I've got dozens of pillows on my bed, and I've made a huge mistake. It's just not okay. Anyways, Nick, we're back again. Still no hockey. And I feel like this week has become even more crazy than the week before. No sports anywhere in sight. How you doing?
I'm okay, Carl. It feels like it's been an eternity since we last spoke, which means it's been like a double eternity since they canceled hockey.
Yeah, every day seems like a week, and yet we're still doing it. You're still doing your work. I started spring break today.
Did you go to the beach?
No, I have not left the house.
Good. You just went to the beach in your mind.
I didn't even do that.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. Well, I'm very glad. Because one of the things I debated doing was coming to Toronto this weekend. Real glad I'm not doing that right now.
You probably wouldn't have been allowed to do it anyways.
Yeah, because they say that within Canada we can go places, but some provinces have said, well, I guess there would be nothing for me to do. That's the thing.
Even if you got here, there would be nothing to do.
I could go enjoy the lovely, what is it? Probably 7 degrees outside.
It snowed this morning and rained all day.
Yeah, it snowed. It snowed here pretty much every day this week, which really just brings me a lot of joy, Nick. That's exactly what I want, is more winter right now.
Okay, good. You're being sarcastic. For a second, I wasn't sure.
No. The thing I want the most with the weather is to be able to put on a pair of shorts and sit outside alone on my patio. Is that too much to ask right now? Is it too much to ask to sit alone on my patio in shorts?
I mean, you can still do it.
Well, and there's no one around to judge me, which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No one would see.
No one would have any idea. Well, Nick, let's get to some of what we have this week. We are going to talk about sports We're going to talk about
Maybe,
this
sort of.
this hockey show. We're going to talk about so some things happened this week. We found out today that Olympics, those aren't a thing anymore. We've got the NHLPA has some ideas on what they want to do. And we might eliminate some teams. We might talk about a little what ifs with the NHL. And you know what? Who knows what else?
Who knows indeed. I certainly don't.
I don't. Before we get to any of that, let's talk to our sponsor. If you are one who has some time on your hands right now, as many of us do, some time in the evenings, your plans of watching hockey every night canceled, head to norquest.ca/career moves, where you can find out some ways you could go back to school. You could learn something, take some classes. And I think right now that's a great way to do that. So if you, for example, have some time on your hands, if you're up with a crying child all night, you could...
You can hear that, eh?
Hello. But you could spend some time learning right now. So you go to norquest.ca, find out more.
Your next career move is right around the corner, and Norquest College is here to help. Our new Career Moves professional development program will help you transition to new job opportunities. Funded by the Future Skills Center, we will provide one-on-one coaching, self-assessments, skill development and training, and up to $2,000 in available tuition credit. Our focus is your success. Make your next move. Apply today at norquest.ca/career moves.
Great place to go to get some extra courses. If there's something you've ever wanted to learn about, or you want to change careers, head on over there and do that. Well, Nick, let's start with the most recent news. Yesterday evening, the thing that I've learned this week is that nothing can be taken for granted.
That is very true. That and everything changes.
And everything changes, right? The second you think something is a fact or that something's not going to change, it's gonna. And so that's what we discovered yesterday. Canada, the first country to say we are not going to be sending people to the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Today, they were announced that they would be postponed until next year. A big move today.
Huge move. And one I'm sure the IOC did not want to make.
They tried as long as they could to postpone this decision. Because they said yesterday? They said, middle of April, we're going to have a decision on what we're doing. And then Canada was like, yeah, we're not going.
Yeah, I mean, that's what prompted Canada to put that statement out, right?
Yeah.
Like, did any other country put out a public statement saying that?
Australia followed after Canada did. And then it really forced their hand because, I mean, if countries aren't going to be there, you aren't going to put this event on.
You know who would still go, though? Russia, just to get every single one of those default gold medals.
We won everything. We're the best. No, there'd be some others. Like North Korea would have a time there. For sure. They'd be winning everything. But I mean, when you look at, because I know Calgary recently bid on the Winter Olympics, a smaller scaled down Olympics, and the cost of that was ridiculous. When you look at the cost of what this is going to be, you have to, for Japan to make any sort of money back and for this to be even remotely worth it, you have to do it in a way that people are going to show up for it. Because there, Nick, what would you guess the cost of this Olympic Games is?
Oh God, I don't know if my brain can, if money numbers can go up that high in my brain, like hundreds of billions.
It's only $25 billion.
Oh, okay, that's way cheaper than I thought.
Which when we see nowadays, because like every country has their daily press conference where they're handing out, billions of dollars for this and billions of dollars for this. It seems small, right? Like, yeah, much less than what you said, but you still need to be able to show something for this, right? Those dollars that they're handing out are for a thing, are to support and help people. When you're also handing out $25 billion for no one to show up for the Olympics, it's a different story.
Yeah, it's a lot of sunk costs too, right? Like infrastructure and facilities, and it's a lot of stuff that you can't just refund.
Right. Well, and that cost would, I don't even know what it would be, because I went to I did the unthinkable, Nick. I went to Costco on the weekend.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was very nice. But even there, like, I show up to Costco and there's security standing outside.
Yeah.
Never seen that before. And so they're handing out hand sanitizer or like Lysoling your cart as you walk into the store.
Yeah.
They're, have a line. They're limiting the amount of people in the store. And these are the things that are happening right now. To go to a grocery store, to have thousands of people in a sporting event so soon after, you could only think the increase in cost that would happen to host an event of this scale.
Yeah. I don't know how they thought that this would happen. I don't know why they thought they could wait until mid-April to make that decision.
Yeah. So that's pulled. So next year we get Olympics, which means you get back-to-back Olympics. We're going to have Olympics in the summer, and then presumably February of 2022. So only, 7-8 months apart, we're going to have two sets of Olympics, which is going to be interesting.
Crazy. Because, it would be like June 21.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder if that's ever happened before.
I think they flat out canceled them during the war. I don't think that they've ever moved the Olympics to another year.
Yeah, I mean, I was always under the impression that that's just something they were not going to entertain. You either had them or you didn't have them. But at this point, so late in the game, I can't see, you can't cancel them. You have to postpone. You have to do it in some way because they have to recoup some of those sunk costs.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And when you're asking so much to be done by these cities, you have to be able to do that, right? Like, you have to be able to have those kinds of things there. So, So do you think, with that being the case, there's two things. One I saw Greg Wyshynski brought up today is that NBC, broadcaster of the NHL in the States, also broadcaster for the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And part of the issue was that if the NHL was to run, now the Olympics don't actually start till July 24th, or they weren't supposed to, which is terrifying, and I'm not excited for late July hockey, but that's likely what we're going to have. So he said this actually helps the NHL's case for a short regular season or whatever they're going to do to get this back, because they're not getting bumped off NBC for the Olympics, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's it. And that helps NBC too. They don't have to make that decision.
Right? They don't have to find out where are we going to show this at the same time. But also, do you think this does anything at all to the case of the NHL going to the Olympics 7 months? Maybe even they might just run one into the other at this point in time. Japan's now hosting both of them, and we'll just do double dip.
Summer and Winter Olympics are very different games. But I don't know if this helps the NHL's case in going to the Olympics at all in the winter.
Do you think it hurts their case, or just does nothing?
I think it nothings it.
Yeah, I would agree. So looking at this, Nick, I did do some research here. We have never, in the history of the Summer Olympics, since they started back in 1896, there has never been an Olympics held in an odd-numbered year. So the 2021 Olympics are going to be a unique thing. And it does not look like there was any, except for the ones canceled. They skipped two, 1940 and 1944. Both did not have Olympics as scheduled. Now we're going to miss this year. So,
wow, that's interesting about the even number thing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they've never moved the Olympics. They've only canceled them entirely.
Man, it's crazy how it keeps blowing my mind how crazy this virus thing's gotten.
It is. It seems surreal.
It does.
Yeah.
And it feels surreal too. Like you talked about going to Costco, just leaving the house kind of feels surreal. Yeah.
To be able to go to a place, the fact that the places that I've been in the last week are grocery stores. Like that's the only thing I've done. I've walked outside my house, through my neighborhood, and gotten food.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the strangest thing.
And you discover when you do this how little ideas you have of what to do. It's like I played, I think, was it, again, everything blends. Was it last week we talked about what we're doing without sports?
Yes.
Okay. Seems like a world ago.
It does.
But like, I haven't really I know some people who are very much like, all right, like it's been a week. I need to figure out a hobby or something.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much. I all weekend, I kind of just bounce back and forth from playing video games to watching television or movies. Like that's kind of all we've been doing. I mean, I consider myself lucky because I have work still during the week. I do work from home, but I'm still on and off the phone, and I have other things to occupy my mind. But there's a whole other layer of weirdness because like I stay home a lot anyways because I work from home. But there's a whole other layer of weirdness when they say you can't leave the house. Now I suddenly want to leave more.
Yeah, because they put some new things in place in Ontario with you today, did they not?
Today, yeah, today's Monday, March 23rd. They're closing all non-essential businesses to the public.
Which is, I mean, at this point in time, I'm not even sure because there's so many things here that are already closed. Like, that's going to be what? Like grocery stores, drugstores.
Yeah, pharmacies.
Doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen what the exact list of things is yet, but I'm kind of like you. I just kind of assumed everything was closed anyways.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, there's no they like when playgrounds are closed, like they're putting signs up in Calgary that say like playground closed, don't come here.
Oh, man, it's so crazy.
Like it seems so weird, and yet we still don't know the full weirdness of it. There's still more to come.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while, man. I know that AHL TV put out an email. I don't know if it was this week or last week, but it said don't expect the AHL to be back in action anytime before May.
Yeah. Well, they officially canceled the Memorial Cup.
Yeah.
So the CHL season, OHLQ, the dub, all done for the year. Memorial Cup canceled. And the only time that it's in, I believe, the 102 years of the Memorial Cup, the only time it's never been handed out.
Wow.
So when I start to think like, I mean, you think that this is something that is, you know, there's some sort of precedent is what I used to think. And the more you see these things like, oh yeah, this is the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Ever. We've never done this. And so we're all just kind of figuring it out together. That's why, I mean, as our show, like what did NHL podcast do the last time there was a giant pandemic that canceled the rest of the season? Let's just follow that blueprint, Nick. Do we want to just do that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's open the old podcasting book to the chapter on pandemics that shut down the world. And what's this? The page is blank?
You know what? I went to the index and pandemic's not even in there.
What?
I don't even know.
Guess we have to handwrite in this entry.
You know what, Nick? That's what we should do. We should write our book.
We should write our book? Like the one we always talk about writing?
Yeah, right? I mean, I don't see why not. Just, until you said that you liked liked only one person, enough people listen to this. Maybe they'll read our book.
How do you want to do it? Do you want to like alternate chapters? Like I'll write a chapter, you write a chapter?
You know what? I never understood how those people who write book, when you buy a book and it's like, it's by these two people. How is that how they do that?
I don't know.
I have no idea. That's not in the podcaster's book either.
I assume those two people break the story out and outline it together, and then they hire an intern to actually write it while they sip on margaritas.
You know what? Now I extra want to write a book.
Sounds pretty nice, right?
If you or an intern wishes to write our book for us, we've got if you're a ghostwriter,
we've got ideas.
We've got a book for you. Well, the NHL has no information about what is going to be happening. They did today release arguably the least helpful FAQ I've ever read.
Oh my God, it was so vague.
So if you were wondering, the NHL put this statement out, answering some of the important questions we all want answers to, Nick. How does the NHL's timeline, how does that impact? How does what? I should read the whole question instead of just jumping in the middle. You know what? When you get our book, don't just start in the middle like I did with this question, because you're going to miss out on a lot of like pre-information that's pretty important. So
context,
yeah, there's a lot that's going to be missing. So they said that, you know, with the limit on gatherings in Canada and the US, how does that impact the NHL's timeline on determining when the season can resume? So they said that the CDC apparently set out a 60-day guideline in the US. So until May 15th, they've got this 50 person thing. So assuming events are tracking positively, we would hope to be able to begin producing high-level guidance on the potential of opening a club training camp period roughly 45 days into the period covered by the recommendation. So that's interesting, right? That's something that we did not necessarily know, is that training camp can happen again.
Well, it's going to have to, though. Don't you think? Like, we were talking about this weekend. At least in Toronto, I assume most of these players live in like condos downtown. And actually across the league, I would assume a lot of players probably don't own, especially the younger guys, probably don't own houses yet. And all the gyms are closed. In all these condos, all the public gyms are all closed. So, you know, the guys who have houses and home gyms, they can work out and stay fit. But what about the guys who rely on the rink and on the condo gym and on the public gym?
Yeah. Like we said, everyone's readjusting. I can only imagine, again, there's a lot of people with a lot of struggles. And this is, I don't say this to minimize it, but I can only imagine how hard it is to go from a schedule where like you've got morning skates, you come back, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you train, you go to the game, and all of a sudden you can't do any of that, to then also be able to stay in shape. Really hard.
Yeah. And their schedule is so regimented too.
Yeah. I would assume that the teams have put together some sort of like best practice or like suggested thing. Like I saw going around on the socials, the 10 push-up challenge. Mm-hmm. Maybe do that.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the like 4 types of content the NHL is doing right now.
Yes. That and teams playing NHL 20.
Yeah. Oh my God. EA Sports right now making a killing on it. Everybody's playing NHL 20.
Yeah. I'm not.
No, me neither.
But, you know.
So not everybody.
But, you know, that if they put out a different game every year and it wasn't just the exact same thing rebranded with updated rosters, maybe I'd buy it every year.
Oh my God, Carl. That's why I stopped buying them. I didn't even know that about you.
Yeah.
We're just learning about each other here.
The NHL series is mediocre at best.
It's
a fun game, but you can buy it 3 years ago and get the exact same game.
Totally agree.
So don't.
Yeah. So that's one of the kinds of content.
That's one of them.
The other one is where they're like, they have their sticks and they're tapping around the toilet paper and stick handling that around.
I was debating doing that for my first TikTok video today, but I didn't want to wreck it. I'm not a millionaire athlete who can afford to wreck toilet paper rolls. So
yeah, a little late to the game on that one, Carl. When it comes to content, you got to be the first.
I do.
TikTok.
Yeah. So that's one of their questions that they've answered. So training camp, that's going to be a thing we get to experience again.
But they're not going to start producing guidelines for that until the 45-day period based on that answer.
Yes, they hope to provide guidance regarding training camp 45 days into the 60-day period. So like beginning of May, they're hoping to have some sort of idea what they can do. And I guess that will be a yes or a no.
Okay.
Have any NHL players tested positive? We know yes. We actually know, the team didn't say, but Nikita Zaitsev, one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And another unknown player of the Ottawa Senators. So we've got 2 there.
Oh,
and then they ask what steps that the NHL takes. I know actually I work with someone who is involved. Their husband, it works with the Flames as well. And very interesting, like how much like everyone full on quarantine, and they get to that in this as well. Players are supposed to be self-isolating. They were allowed to go back to their home cities. And so I saw, if you follow, I don't know how many NHL players you follow on Instagram or social media, but they all made their way back home and are now just hanging out at their homes doing their things.
And did I see even the guys from overseas were allowed to go back there?
Yes. So I saw in the least social distancing thing possible, a bunch of the players from Sweden all chartered a plane together and
they went back,
flew back home to Sweden. Yeah.
Mm.
I just looked at it. I'm like, you're playing cards at a table. It's not what we're going for here, boys.
Oh man. I don't know if I would have gone.
I would have gotten my own plane.
Yeah.
If you can be throwing around toilet paper, you can also afford your own plane. That's where we're at, Nick.
Just barter it. Trade your toilet paper for the plane.
It's true. Dear pilot, give you this whole pack if you fly me across the Atlantic Ocean. And they're saying, is there talking more about testing, but they're asking, will games resume in arena venues that are closed to the public? And they say it's premature to answer that. If the NHL playoffs go into July and or August, could there be a shortened regular season next year? No. So if we have that August hockey we've all been clamoring for, they do not anticipate a scenario in our resumption of play format that would endanger or interfere with the league's ability to stage and execute the 2021-2020. That's a lot of 20s in there.
You okay?
No.
You glitching out a little bit?
I got lost in that. That season.
So I thought that was the most interesting piece of that whole FAQ, and it was way down at the bottom.
Yeah, they really buried that one.
Because based on what came out this week, that the NHLPA proposed for the resumption of the season, for the remainder of the season,
yeah,
I don't see how they could proceed without having a shortened next season.
Yeah, because you have to have, let's say you finish in August, you have to have the draft.
Yes.
You have to have free agency.
Yes.
And then you have to have another training camp. I know we just did it, but we're going to do it again.
Yeah,
Run
there's
it back.
Going to be a lot of training. And in their scenario, they had the following season starting in November.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty hopeful. Like if you're wrapping up the playoffs at the end of August to then do the draft and free agency in September and October, and were they going to start training camp in October and start the season in November?
So they have its training camp, right? It would be training camp in July, finish the regular season at the end of July, playoffs in August and September. So this has them finishing the regular season and then draft and free agency in October and then start the season a month late in November.
So they wouldn't do a second training camp. They would just jump right into the season.
It doesn't sound like. I mean, maybe that's part of that.
At that point, though, you're only off the ice for 4 weeks.
Unless you miss the playoffs, right? Like for a team, right?
Yeah, true.
For a team out of the playoffs, they're not going to be on the ice for 3 months.
Sorry, missing the playoffs is still new to me, so I have to remember that that's a thing that happens.
You know what, Nick? You gotta get more used to it.
Oh, I will, Carl.
So it'll be interesting because the big difference, it sounds like, between these two proposals is that the NHLPA is wanting to finish the regular season, and it just sounds like the NHL has no real desire to do that.
Yeah. I'm surprised the NHLPA is willing to finish a season, do a full playoffs, and then start again 4 weeks later. I'm surprised the players are going for that, but it sounds tedious. It also, like, I was thinking about this today when it comes to the draft and when it comes to prospects. How is this whole thing going to hurt them when it comes to making the NHL and making their teams?
Absolutely. Yeah. To go from, I mean, if this proposal happens in October, you're drafted. Presumably the junior seasons are still going to fire up the same time as normal, right? Because they'll normally happen in September.
Yeah.
So you've got those, and all of a sudden your NHL clubs aren't starting up until November. It does seem very difficult to get some of these, drafted guys, especially the fringe players, right? Like that guy who might get those 10-game tryouts, he might make it. Yeah. It becomes very difficult for them.
Yeah.
Well,
for sure.
That's where we're at, Nick. Do you want to eliminate a team?
Yeah.
Should we go to the old elimination station, Nick?
Let's go to the elimination station. Turn it on.
Elimination Station.
All right, the Elimination Station is still powered by Park Power in these kinds of times where, they're saying on the news that they're going to make it so that you can defer your utility payments. Having a good utility company is important, Nick, and Park Power is there for you. So head to parkpower.ca where you can get the customer service you need and make sure that you can keep the lights on when you're home alone. No one wants the electricity going out when you're binging Netflix and playing video games all weekend or all week.
Oh, no.
Or all month. One other thing that I definitely know is happening, Nick, and I won't know until we finish this show. And I want to just jump in here real quick. The platform we use, this is not a promotion. This is not an advertisement. The platform we've been using for this show for the entire time you've been on, and even I think 6 months before that, probably 2 years now, we've been using Zoom as our way of recording this podcast. Zoom's having a real coming out party, Nick.
No kidding.
Everyone is Zooming, and I'm not certain till we finish this how well the connection is between yourself and I.
I think that's also true just of the internet in general, because I've actually noticed a dip in my internet quality the last week since everybody's been home.
Absolutely, yeah. So if this is bad, you can blame our internet. You can thank Zoom for a great quality all the rest of the time, and understand, and thank you for bearing with us as we eliminate a team from the NHL playoffs. Nick, can you remind us?
So far, in order, we have eliminated the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators, the Los Angeles Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, the Minnesota Wild, the New Jersey Devils, the San Jose Sharks, the Buffalo Sabres, the New York Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Arizona Coyotes, and last and not least, the Florida Panthers.
There we go, Nick. That is a lot of teams. And nothing has changed since we were here last. But we're still going to do it because we have a mere 2 teams left to eliminate, I believe.
Oh, my goodness.
It looks like we have one team in the East left because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. Yeah, one more in the East and one more in the West, Nick. What do you think?
Man. I feel more comfortable eliminating the team from the East first. No, that's not true. This is all very close.
It is. So the team in the East that's currently out of the playoffs is the New York Islanders. They sit 1 point back of the Columbus Blue Jackets with 2 games in hand. The team uneliminated in the West is tied with the Predators, the Vancouver Canucks, tied with the Predators. I feel much less confident in the Canucks' ability to make the playoffs than I do the Islanders.
I would agree with that, but I want you to know that this one's painful because the Canucks are the team before the season started that I said were going to surprise us and make the playoffs.
I mean, I'm still surprised that they're tied for a playoff spot.
They're a pretty better than average team.
They are. And on the way up, one of the things that I think we all enjoy about the Canucks is some of their young talent, right? I do not know anyone out there. Maybe, no, not even them. I was going to say, I'm not sure there's a fan base out there that has a dislike for Elias Pettersson right now.
I don't think so. He's so much fun to watch.
So that alone is the reason. And like, I've never really had any sort of like for the Canucks. Probably stemming from a certain relative of a member on the Detroit Red Wings right now.
Oh yeah, that was against your team, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, the last while, I mean, they almost beat the Bruins in the playoffs. That was the thing I liked them doing.
Yeah. But they're not a very well-liked team, are they?
No. Well, especially I live in Western Canada and not on the wrong side of the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
And there's Flames fans, Oilers fans all have a great dislike for the Canucks. That's one thing that Edmonton and Calgary can agree on is the Canucks not good.
Yeah. And they went through a bit of a joke phase too, where they were just making moves that you're like, what? Why are they doing this? Do they think they're good? But they've kind of bounced back from that. And
so that's a very good question. Do you think, because a lot of those players are still on this team, right? Louis Eriksson on this team. Antoine Roussel on this team. Who else? Jay Beagle on this team. So do you think that they have, or have they gotten lucky with it? Do you think they've made better moves last few years?
I do, yeah. I still really like that JT Miller trade last year for them. I thought that was a good move. I thought going out and getting Tyler Myers was a good move last year. They've drafted really well. That's the other thing. I know that's not really a move that you can point to, but with how well all their draft picks are panning out, it's too many for me to just say they got lucky in the draft.
Yeah. Well, and managed to take what seemed like a failed prospect in Jacob Markstrom and turn him, as well as Thatcher Demko, into a very good goaltending tandem.
Yeah. Their goalies are good. And this is one team that when you talk about what can we do to fix the Canucks, you don't point to the goalie and just say, get a new goalie.
No.
We've done a lot.
That's usually the shtick, right? It's get a new goalie and then just let everything else ride. But there is one problem. Jacob Markstrom's contract is up after this year. Obviously, Vancouver would love to keep him.
Yeah, just don't give him a crazy Luongo deal.
Which is, that's easy to do right now because he's already 30 years old, Nick.
That's crazy, actually.
I
did not know that.
that's how long it took for him to develop. Because I remember, like, back when he was with Florida, excited for him. I'm like, man, Florida might actually have a good goalie here. Turns out all it took was another decade and him to end up in Vancouver for that to be a thing. So,
but they're going to sign him. Like, he's their goalie.
yeah. And I mean, especially, I think he is comfortable there. He wants to be a part of that organization. I definitely foresee that being a thing. And outside of that, luckily for them, all those really terrible contracts that they signed aren't done yet. And so there's not a lot they can do.
No, their hands are pretty tied here.
Outside of, I mean, they picked up Tyler Toffoli at the deadline. Outside of that, that's the only money leaving this cap situation for next year. Leaving them with, and it's hard to project a salary cap for next year.
Yeah.
If we assume it stays the same, which I think right now is probably our safest of bets. I know that they said that it was going to be 84 to 88 million. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, probably not.
So if we leave it at that, they've got about $18 million, $18 million in cap space for next year, more than enough to get a Jacob Markstrom deal signed and to, fill in some other pieces if they want to.
But they also got to do Jake Virtanen. Which, like, I don't know how... I don't see that being too big, but it kind of depends on what they want to do.
I think that's it smells like a bridge to me.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to see a lot of bridges this offseason.
I think so. I think especially when you think back to last offseason and we sat and waited all offseason for things to happen. You don't have that choice this year, Mitch.
Imagine Marner was up this year.
Oh my goodness.
It would have just been done in 4 weeks.
Or he just misses third training camp or whatever we're calling it. Training week.
Training week.
Yeah. So is there anything that you would do to this Canucks team or just let it ride and keep going?
I think you let it ride. You keep going. You start giving more and more time to the younger guys, which I think they've done it already anyways. I don't know. Do you try and move out in Eriksson? I guess you always try, but good luck. Yeah,
if you could, but like, is it worth buying him out? There's 2 years left on that deal.
No, if I'm them, like, I'm not doing anything until Luongo's off the books.
It's funny that that's still a thing. So they've got 2 more years of him. They in the same season they get to wipe out him and Louis Eriksson, clearing $9 million in cap space.
Oh my God. What a weight lifted off the shoulders.
And Antoine Roussel and Jay Beagle, all gone. $15 million in cap space for those 3 players.
It's going to be a big year for them.
Well, there we go, Nick. Vancouver Canucks, the latest team eliminated, the second last team eliminated. Next week, we head over to the East and wrap up over there.
Whew. And then they're going to finish all the season, and none of it will matter.
We do it all over again. We'll have to go back. We should probably, I'm going to do this in my notes because I've also tried to keep track. I'm going to write down which teams got eliminated during the fake season of right now so that we remember. It was what? Idea. It was only Arizona and Florida, and now...
Was Arizona done after the season was canceled?
Was it just Florida last week?
I think it was just Florida last week.
Okay, just Florida. Just Florida then.
Just Florida. That's basically how they're known anyways.
Just Florida. Yeah. It's fitting that Florida and the Canucks get to be eliminated back-to-back weeks, though, too.
Agreed.
Well, there we go, Nick. Elimination Station, powered by Park Power, is closed for another week. One last thing we wanted to touch on, Nick, before we wrapped up this here show. And I mean, again, no one knows anything, but if the NHL were to end right now, I mean, I feel like that should just be our new motto for the show.
No one knows anything, as the NHL clearly proved in their Q&A.
Right. When's the season come back? We'll tell you in 45 days.
What are they doing right now anyways?
I mean, they spent a lot of time writing that FAQ. So, I mean, it's pretty intense what they've got going. I mean, you can't, right? There's nothing to do.
They probably had executives and managers at every level reviewing and inputting on that thing. It's probably a nightmare to put together.
Oh, yeah, because you've got scheduling, you've got like answering questions on the health of players, which you
goodness.
also are keeping private. Who's tested positive? It's not an easy thing, but I mean, someone had to do it.
Yeah, they did.
I'm sure you know very well what it's like to have to put one of these bad boys together.
Oh my goodness. That's why I'm just shaking my head right now talking about how much of a nightmare it must have been.
Yeah. It absolutely would have been. All right, Nick. But what we wanted to sort out now would be some of, and we might not even get to all of them because we might as well save some content for next week. So let's answer this question right now on air. Do you want to put this next segment for next week? Save it for next week?
It's probably the smart thing to do.
All right. So
I mean, who knows what's going to happen between now and then, but it's probably smart.
I mean, here's what's great, Nick. There will be nothing that changes our opinions between now and then.
That is true.
So let's keep it locked up for next week. A teaser for next week, though. Next week, we're going to be talking about who should win each of the awards. So we're going to be looking at some of the top awards in the NHL, the Hart, the Norris, Cale Makar's Calder Trophy, the Vezina.
I heard they were just renaming it after him.
I think so, yeah. I think it's the Cale McCalder Trophy.
Right. Yeah, that's what I heard too.
But you know what? There's no way to know. No way to know, Nick. Certainly not eliminated from the playoffs, Quinn Hughes' trophy. Not him. Anyways, you get more of that next week where I aggressively come after Quinn Hughes because that's what you get to look forward to.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good, Nick. Let's give the folks out there, since they are still here. Last week, everyone tuned in for the blanket versus bedsheet conversation. If you were to give someone something to do this week, let's give like what do you think? A challenge to our listeners, something to either do this week or try to come up with something, create something. As we're all sitting here trying to think of ways that we could do it, what's something that you think people should take a shot at this week?
Writing a book?
I think if you have written a book, we would love to hear from you what it takes to write a book. I think that's good. I mean, I'd say the longest thing I've ever written, 40 pages.
40? That's a lot.
40, yeah. There was a lot of pictures in it, Nick.
Oh.
But I did write it.
Did you draw the pictures?
They were Excel graphs is what it was. It was
still sounds like a lot of work.
And it was, don't get me wrong. But not a book, certainly.
I wrote a novel once.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. A couple hundred pages.
Did you self-publish?
Oh no, it was just a first draft.
Just for fun?
I have it printed out somewhere with a bunch of notes scribbled all over it. I never really went back to it.
What was it about?
It was about this guy, this super rich dude who wanted to hit the reset button on society. So he turned all of the like subway networks in all the major cities into bunkers and put a bunch of people down there and then killed the rest of the people. But what it's really about is one of the people he hired to turn the subway tunnels into the bunkers, and he discovered the whole plan.
Oh, so he ruined them from the inside.
He tried. I will not give away the ending.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I think if I had ever done something like that, it seems like a good time to find it, finish. Who knows? I mean, it seems a little on the nose for right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't go apocalyptic right now.
No, but it seems like a great story.
I did write a pilot for a television show called The Beer League, and it's mockumentary style about these dudes who play in their beer league, and they want to beat like the young junior players who never really made it to the NHL. It's basically Trailer Park Boys meets beer league hockey.
Yeah, it's like Goon meets the Trailer Park Boys.
That's right.
Nice. Did you have any ideas on who you wanted to cast in this pilot?
I didn't know, but we can go through the exercise.
I was going to say
the content.
Do you have that?
I do. Yeah.
Can we do like a live read of it as an episode?
Absolutely, we can.
That sounds fantastic. Okay, next week's episode is canceled. We're no longer talking about awards. What we might need, we'll talk about that. I'm very excited about this now.
Okay. I'm going to find it.
When Nick's show becomes a thing on Comedy Central, remember, you saw it here first.
You saw it here on our audio podcast.
You heard it here first. Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll have to rope in some extras.
Well, we might need to, unless you want to do all the characters.
I mean, not opposed to that, Nick. Well,
I'll have to find it.
Yeah, if you find it, we'll do that. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. We've got time. But that's a thing you could do, right? If you've ever wanted to do something like that. If you ever, like, a thing that I've started to do is, and then again, you mentioned, I forget what it was. Oh, you need to be first with my videos.
Yeah.
Things. I always felt like, because I did at my old work, I did a lot of like data manipulation and like numbers and analysis and essentially like the things that they do for the fancy stats community. I did that, but in a different field. And I was always like, I could definitely do this. But now everyone's done it. And I feel like there's no real need for me to like chime in and be like, yep, they're right.
Maybe that's your video though.
That's it, right? I just write, I mean, one of those really technical papers, I could put some more graphs in there and just the conclusion is they're right. But maybe that's the thing I should be doing. Take some time. I mean, I went to the effort of like even a few years installing Python on here and doing that. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to code for data analysis together, because I did it differently than the hockey guys do it now. And I was trying to figure out how they do it and do it similarly. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should just do my own thing. No, the way I did it was way more work because I had databases that I could get my data from. Turns out these places do not make it as easy for you
they don't
get data from.
No, they don't. But I know a lot of people who are teaching themselves how to code right now.
Yeah, it's a great time for it. I mean, it's as easy as ever to learn to code, and you've got time. So this week, let us know if you, 1, played video games. What games did you play? 2, if you watch TV shows or movies, what are you watching? I know I stumbled upon a couple weeks ago Contagion on Netflix. I see currently number 2. Haven't brought myself to watch it though. I got Disney Plus, so I'll probably dive into my TV time, Clone Wars. Nick, I'm going to watch the old Star Wars Clone Wars.
Nice. If
you write a book, or you're doing any writing, right? I know our writing team over on the website side are combining these. They're doing a series looking at trying to figure out what the best sports movie of all time is. Do you have a favorite sports movie of all time?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Oh. It's only us here. Like I'm not, like my wife is home, but it wasn't asking her.
My favorite sports movie of all time. I'm trying to decide if it was the 97 or 98 Stanley Cup winning videos.
No, I think it wasn't it? It was 95?
No. I always liked the movie Miracle on Ice. I think like maybe a bit of a popular answer, but the Mighty Ducks movies were always fantastic. If we're talking general sports, though, The Sandlot, which is on Disney Plus.
That was the very first thing I watched when I got Disney Plus. I'm like, well, it's time to fire up the old Sandlot. Sandlot's great. Remember the Titans for me also up there.
Oh, yeah, I remember that movie.
I mean, that's good because you're supposed to. It's in the name. Those would be up there for me. Mighty Ducks, Sandlot, Remember the Titans, all great movies. Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Lots of good ones, Nick.
Angels in the Outfield.
Ooh, we didn't put that in that didn't make our bracket. That would have been a good one. I mean, if you were to go strictly like, because we split it up. We've got like 8 hockey movies, 8 baseball. We've got a football and fighting division, and then the rest of them. But you could do an entire bracket just based on like kid sports movies, and just one bracket that's all Air Bud. Angels.
So true.
Then another of like Mighty Duck. Yeah, man, there's so many good sports movies out there. Go check those out. So let us know what you're doing to fill your time with. We'd love to hear from you. Love to chat. You can find us on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4, Fourth Line Podcast, thefourthlinepodcast.com, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/the Fourth Line Podcast. We're on iTunes, Facebook. I just said Facebook, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you find podcasts, you can find us. You could look for us on Facebook to listen, but it's easier if you go to like not Facebook to listen. I messed this up so badly.
You're doing great, Carl. You're doing great.
We're doing the best we can.
Keep it going.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. We'll be back next week with who knows what from where knows what, but we'll be here for you.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. We both hate the NHL gamers. And when we write our book, we'll be really, really famous.